Are you sometimes suddenly overcome by this awful feeling that you're a bad person, that you're wrong, even though you haven't actually done anything to harm or hurt anybody? Then welcome to the club of humanity and its fun range of tricky emotions. And that emotion that I've just described is shame or embarrassment. And in this video, I'd like to give you 3 tips for how to get through such an inner shame attack. So the kinds of situations that I'm referring to are, well, more innocuous, but yet you feel mortified. So for instance, you find yourself in a foreign country with a different culture from yours, and you are unaware of a certain custom and you put your foot in. Like, say you're meant to take off your shoes, but you weren't aware and you did it anyway. So nobody was actually harmed or hurt, yet on the inside you feel mortified, and that feeling lingers and it's really hard to, well, shake it off, you know? So these are the kind of situations I'm talking about. And what I'm not talking about here is situations where someone on the outside is actively shaming you or bullying you. Those would require a separate conversation. So my name is Dr. Braehler. I'm a clinical psychologist and self-compassion teacher and teacher trainer of the first generation. And I have some tips for you that may be helpful. So of course, these cannot replace any other necessary psychiatric or psychotherapeutic treatment. So please be very wise, take good care of yourself and seek out professional help where you live if you do suffer from long-standing, intense feelings of shame and any other psychological symptoms that tend to go along with intense shame. So if you do identify with being quite shame-prone and being mortified, even though no one's actually been harmed or hurt in these situations, then my first tip would be to find the sensations associated with shame in your body. Why is that? So you may have already noticed that it's very difficult to try and regulate this intense feeling of shame by thinking your way through the situation or the emotion. And the reason for that is that our threat activation is so intense during a moment of shame that it pretty much mostly shuts down the part of our brain that is in charge of rational thinking. And shame itself can really feel like this all-encompassing thick fog that we cannot penetrate easily. And it really clouds our vision, it clouds our perspective on the situation and on ourselves. And you may also experience it as, your mind going blank or simply not being able to think straight, right? So this is part of shame, and therefore it is pretty much impossible to try and access rational thinking in that very moment that you're experiencing shame. What we can try and do with some training, though, is to focus our attention on our body. And the easiest way often is to start with feeling the contact of our bodies with the ground we stand on, so feeling your feet. Maybe you want to stamp your feet to really get a stronger sense of being in your body. And then you can be curious and see, hey, where in my body do I feel this emotion the strongest? So usually we have certain sensations that go along with particular emotions. They may vary, but maybe with shame we can have a sense of there's maybe a sort of slight nausea in our stomach or a hollowness in the stomach, or we have a sense of we want to hunch our shoulders and we get tight in the shoulders, or maybe there's an achiness in our heart, or a coldness or hotness, or an emptiness in the forehead. So you can simply explore, and if you find a part of your body where the sensations shift the most, you can simply place a hand on that part of your body. And already this overpowering feeling, this thick dark fog that felt like it was overpowering maybe, has become manageable because you're suddenly able to put a hand on that place on your body, right? And you may be able to turn towards it with some kindness and friendliness because that place is under stress in that moment. If you want to deepen that, you find a practice in the description box to work directly with the sensations associated with shame in your body. Tip number 2 is to anchor yourself in a kind gaze. Now, why would that be important? So in a moment of shame, we believe firmly, usually, that we exist in everybody's mind as somehow inferior, unattractive, bad, wrong, disgusting even. So what that means is there is no safe place, no safe relationship to turn to. We don't feel like we belong. We're kind of ostracized, marginalized, and that is so fundamentally threatening to us as social beings, which need to belong somewhere, which need to feel safe with other people. So what we can do to create that kind of anchor whilst we experience the sensations of shame is to imagine a being. That could be a pet, it could be a real person from the past or from the present, in whose mind you trust, that you exist as worthy of attention and care. A being, a person ideally, who has good intentions towards you, and you can trust in that. So that really helps you to anchor yourself in this kind gaze upon you, whilst you're letting all these other gazes that are less benevolent wash through you, right? So over time, that kind gaze upon you becomes bigger and stronger, and these other gazes in our experiences are still existent, but they take up less space, right? So it's a wonderful resource to have. If you're now saying, well, I can't really identify a person who, in whose mind I really trust that I exist as worthy of attention and care, who's good intentions towards me, we can use the power of imagination of our own minds and imagine a being who whose only purpose is to be there for us, who trusts in our own goodness of heart, who sees us as good enough, who sees us as okay, who sees us as a realistic human being, who sometimes makes mistakes and yet is okay, fundamentally good, right? You find the link to a guidance to evoke such an ideal, compassionate being in the description box below. So as you can already tell, the key thing is that we trust in our own goodness and we really take that in over time. So hopefully these 2 tips have helped you to actually get through such an inner shame attack, that it doesn't make all the unpleasant sensations and perceptions and beliefs go away, but you can tolerate them. It's like you're creating another anchor within you where you exist as benevolent, or you receive benevolence and you exist as okay, as good, and the sensations become more manageable in your body. Now, the 3rd tip would be to maybe develop the courage, pick up the courage to confide in one person who you consider as trustworthy enough, and to share with that person what you feel ashamed of. So what maintains shame is our sense of, the fear of being rejected for it by other people. So it makes it big. And then, of course, we don't want to talk about it. We stay silent about it because we really buy into that fear that we will be rejected for it. So again, we're talking about innocuous things that are just part of, the human fallibility, and, it's perfectly okay. So I really encourage you to pick up the courage to pick out one person to share this thing that you're ashamed of with, and see how they respond. And hopefully you will feel great relief, and hopefully they will also feel encouraged to share some of the things that they might feel ashamed of. And usually as humans, we experience great relief when we can feel safe and share something vulnerable, and it helps us to really feel connected and more trusting. So choose wisely, of course, and hopefully these tips have helped you to to be more solid and strong and trusting and more grounded next time you experience such an unpleasant inner shame attack. And hopefully over time you gain more perspective and more distance in a way from those shame feelings as they maybe become a bit smaller. And then you get to explore different beliefs that may be feeding your shame proneness. And then you get to explore where they come from and whether they're still valid or not. So maybe they come from your own life history. Maybe they've been inherited from family. Maybe they were kind of in the collective that you grew up in. And it gives you a great opportunity to begin to work with them and maybe to release those old beliefs as well, and to kind of unburden from those so that the shame overall loses its grip over you. If you found this helpful, you want to learn more about me or with me, from me, then please check out my various meditations, free meditations, audio courses, live online courses, and also if you're a mental health professional who wants to learn more about how to help people develop compassion for themselves, self-compassion, particularly when there is a lot of shame, please check out my course for professionals. Thank you very much and take care.